There you go. It's recording now. Did you get a little notification thing? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So
Is this sound okay, or should I put in my headphones?
do you know what? I think the sound will be fine. Because I was really shocked at how well the Zoom recording came out. They've definitely upgraded something because whenever I Zoom record, it sounds like a rock. So I don't know what changed, but yeah, no, it sounds good. Oh, let tell you what. Let me turn my phone off. Oh, you've already done it. Oh, fine. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
I'm ready when you're ready. How would you want to start this off?
I was just thinking about that. I was looking at the notes. Maybe the first thing to start with could be like, yes, maybe some information about ourselves. We probably won't include it, but I don't know, may as well say
Yeah,
it.
may as well
And
say.
then about our past experiences of our arts career, because we're
Mm.
going to shift into how that's different now. So we
Uh,
should start maybe with what happened in the past.
yeah,
Uh, And then, yeah, let's do that. Let's cover those 3 points.
yeah.
Uh, Introing ourselves, what we did in the past, how it's shifted, and then we'll
Okay.
look at the.
Yeah, go for it, and then we'll touch on. Then we'll literally just go straight into the conversation. So, do you want to go first, maybe?
Sure.
Go for it.
Um, Hi, I am the lady, Ms. Vagina Jenkins. Pronouns they, them. I am a multidisciplinary creative based in Oakland, California. Um, I feel like I've mostly performed as are mostly known in terms of my arts practice as a burlesque performer. Though I do all kinds of things really. Like I just fundamentally am a creative person who always needs to be creating. So yes to burlesque and yes to dance and also filmmaking and taxidermy and painting and crafts and sewing and costume design, like all of the things that fill me up. So yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Hi, I'm Anusha. Pronouns are she, her. I'm also a multidisciplinary artist. I started off as a singer, but then it transformed into songwriter, poet, then I would say dancer, but I have two left feet. But I'm a mover in general. I like to move. And then set designer, photographer, etc., etc. My art always started off on social media, I think, because that was when it's like Instagram started popping off. And when I started, I always was experimenting with how far can I go with with what little that I have. And that was quite interesting because it meant that there was no barriers to what my art could be, and especially because I started off in classical music, so that was very serious and you had to hit the right note and in a certain way uh with a certain feeling that was like given to you. So coming from that background and then transforming into, okay, what's going to happen next, how far can I push this without getting into trouble. So that's where my art has always gone. And again, because I've not really had many resources, I try to do the best with what little that I have. So that is me.
Can you tell me about like, I guess what did that look like? Like give me an example of like something that you took from Instagram to the stage and pushed it with your
Oh,
limited
100%.
capacity.
I think the best example, and I guess it was from Instagram, but it was also from theatre, but I saw it on Instagram, so it counts. Is there was this show called Misty, and it was with this actor called Arzene Kene. And he is just it was a one-man show, and it was just him and balloons, and that was the theme, him and balloons and just music, and he sang and performed. And I saw that on Instagram and I was like, that is amazing. And as someone who grew up working class and grew up, oh, I don't have it was always very much like I don't have what the private school kids have. um so I thought, okay, how far can I take this? So I did a performance for my last year's dissertation show, at university, and I did a performance in pajamas. I said everyone has to come in pajamas. You're not allowed to wear nice clothes. And I remember bringing huge teddy bears from home. Um, and it was really lovely, and it was absolutely ridiculous. But the theme was childhood. The theme was growth, and it turned out to be one of my favorite shows because I met some people that I'm still friends with to this day there. But also, it just felt like all the barriers were down. I made so many mistakes, forgot so many words, but it felt the most Anusha, like this is ridiculous, and I have a lot from a little, and all of that whole idea came from I saw someone with balloons on Instagram and I thought, let me take this and just run with it. So yeah, that's definitely one of my biggest inspirations with social media is like taking something little and exploding. When it comes to your art and with like burlesque, is was that like the center of everything, like the epicenter of all of your art, or was it more that came later and you the artist first, so to speak? Like what was the egg. So, when did the chicken hatch?
Yeah. I feel like burlesque, it's not that I was particularly tied to that art form. It's just that it hit so many markers in that I could create costumes for myself. I could figure out set design for myself. I got to exercise my brain and do historical research about like acts looked like, what people performed back in the day, and like synthesizing all of that felt so useful. But then, yeah, as it came to like relating to burlesque people, not so much. Um, it's so funny. I think I was always surprised that people didn't value the same things that I valued. It's a historical art form, so you would think that there were more history buffs and historians, but mostly it felt like white girls who wanted to show off what they had money to consume.
Mm,
Look at this thing that I bought. Look at this 12 gross of rhinestones. Look at this fancy prop that I bought. And that just always felt incongruent.
yeah, aesthetics. Like it was always about aesthetics rather than like
Yeah. But they
sort.
didn't care about the people that came before them. It always is so strange.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
that's
Um,
yeah.
may I also share a particular moment?
Go for it.
Um, for me, I feel like the thing that I'm most proud of from my burlesque career was organizing this show called The Big Tease. And I knew for me that I wanted to do a traditional strip tease, which takes about like 20 minutes.
Mm,
It's like broken down over like the course of like three different epochs of songs, and it's a whole thing.
yeah.
But I wanted to do that because there were no other opportunities. And I thought I got to make my own show to be able to do that. And then I thought about who I wanted to be in community with. And I saw myself as coming from working class community, coming from punk and queer aesthetics. And so, like, I invited a queer punk band to open for me and a radical marching band. And they, did their whole thing like marching through the venue. And there were like, there was a rockabilly band. And it was just such a weird collection of people. But I can say that we were all unified, at least in our working classness. And that just felt really good to be able to bring people together in that way. And it was different from what I experienced from most of the burlesque shows that I had been a part of, which were all, look at me and my beautifulness,
Mm,
not look what we could make together.
yeah, I hear that. Oh, that sounds like so much fun. That sounds like something I would definitely be there or be involved with in some way, shape, or form.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I definitely would have had you come through and hit us with the vocals.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
little
yeah.
punk vocals. Oh, that's exciting. Well, we'll figure out how to do that virtually at some point because that's like churning little cogs in my brain of like, oh my god, this sounds so cool. Like this
It
sounds really
was. It was. And I can't imagine now knowing what I know, experiencing what I have experienced. I mean, yes, in terms of COVID, but in terms of all of the
Mm,
life experience, I can't imagine bringing people together in that way again.
no, it's amazing how, like, kind of rewinding, but it's gonna like bringing it back. Is that
Yeah.
the way talking about like the way people focus on aesthetics? I didn't realize how much that would become a theme, like after that performance in 2019. And it the more that I've read, the more that I've learned, the more that I've come across like different ways of thinking and different ways of being. I completely agree. Is that I don't think I feel comfortable, even if it were in person or sometimes virtually, being in spaces with these people, knowing what I know and understanding what I have, because I mean, one huge reason, again, it's aesthetics, like realizing how many people focus on the aesthetic of performance rather than the depth of performance. And that's something that really, um, I don't even want to say upset me because I think I always secretly knew, but I thought I could maybe get past it or convince other people to sort of grow and whatever. But right now, where I'm at is like, I feel maybe disappointed is the correct term. But yeah, disappointed in the way that people have shown their ass, like shown the bum bum, really. But yeah, I mean, how has all of this in this moment? Maybe touch on COVID, but anything like how has it changed the way you perform and how has it changed the way you present yourself um as a performer? Like, what has changed from maybe that show to now?
Yeah.
Um, in short,
Well,
we don't have a lot of time.
well, yeah, I mean, I did want to like, yes, to that. And also I just wanted to touch on like what you were talking about with aesthetics, because it holds so much weight as we're thinking about like how we exist in a post-COVID world as performers. And I wonder sometimes if I hadn't thought about it till this moment, I wonder sometimes if people don't mask just because it doesn't look nice. Like the way that was there in your part of the world, was there a monkeypox scare in 2021?
Mhm, yeah. Yes.
Okay. So do you remember, at least in queer communities, how seriously people took that? Oh my God, I have to wipe down all my groceries and I'll start doing this and I'll start doing that. But their concern for COVID at the same time was waning. And I knew in that moment that there was something about aesthetics, period, and the aesthetics of disability in particular. And
Yeah.
I don't want to look disabled by masking.
Yeah.
I can't, I mean, I'm not that person, so I can't like speak from a firsthand perspective, but that's what it seems like from an outsider's perspective looking in.
I mean, it's something that I've been reading about, and I'm not gonna completely turn. This is not gonna turn into like an academic moment, but I was reading The Right to Maim, and there's a huge section on it that talks about queer culture focusing on capacity. So, is the individual capable of? But that capacity is completely like um is the antithesis of disability, because disability justice focuses on the lack of capacity and the lack of being able to work, being able to show up in the world, and how you can still build community within that sort of framework. And I think with queer culture, like especially in the global north, is the fact that it's all the focus on the assimilation, the aesthetics of trying to be normal, trying to fit in, trying to um, say, hey, I might be queer or I might be gay or marginalized in any way, shape, or form, but
Yeah,
I can do what you do. In
yeah,
fact, I can probably exceed what you do. And
yes,
it's focusing on that sort of that I would want to say it's capitalism, but it's not just capitalism. It's just trying to climb that social ladder and and it's actually when you do climb that social ladder, you marginalize a whole nother group of people. And I think with the monkey, going back to the monkeypox thing, that was actually when the penny dropped for me. And I realized I can't be in community with these people because it was the fact that, to be honest, what was interesting over here is that we got the monkeypox vaccine quite late.
Mm.
Um, so I know that the communications, I guess, around monkeypox was, it wasn't downplayed, but it was kind of like, oh, it's the American thing. Kind of funny enough, like with AIDS, it was like, oh, it's America, it's over there, it's not here. No, we're British, we're civilized, and then monkeypox hit, and then suddenly it was like, oh no, this is scary. But what was very interesting about it is that people still went out, people still did X, Y, and Z, but they just were more concerned over it. Um, I think, to be honest, I have a funny feeling that I don't. The plague has come back, but the actual bubonic plague could come back in full force. And like in The Simpsons, there's like the big green like cloud of like illness that could come around. That could be a big cloud of illness that goes round, and I think still people would still not care because in their heads it's like, well, no, it's my right to party, it's my right to enter into public space, thus it is my right to get you sick. And if
Yeah.
you perish under the consequences of that, who cares? You're just a casualty, it's an accident.
And there are certain people who are disposable, and
Mm,
I'm not one of them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's what disappoints me about queer culture is the fact
But
that, yeah, it's the fact that there could have been a building and teaching moment, and of like a rebuilding of like a different sort of idea and space, and there sort of is, but not to the extent it should be.
that's what I was just thinking about, like the queer response. And I feel like the queer response is so particularly disappointing because I thought I was in community with queering people, people who were hungry for a different way to do things, people who recognized as they existed were not serving us.
Mm.
And so when I hear queer people today being like, yes, getting back to normal, ain't shit queer about normal. Did that system really, really serve you? And why did I think that we were community when you were being served by capitalism, white supremacy, sexism, homophobia, transphobia? And I am not. And I somehow thought that we were in community. So here I am queering with LGBT people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, that shit.
Period. I mean, it's funny because there have been people who I've explicitly said that to. Because please, I'm not afraid to fight. Like, like I am that's my background. But there have been people who, granted, maybe I should have seen between the lines because
Yeah.
um they had a lot of social capital that I didn't realize. But in my head, I still thought, we're a community. We have similar marginalizations. And they've told me verbatim, I want to make money. I want to not I want to be in a certain space. I want to be next to the people who are oppressing me. And in my head, I'm like, that makes you the oppressor. That makes you, like, regardless of what your marginalizations are, that makes you the oppressor, and we can't be in community with these lot. Like, and it's scary because you think like, say if this moment didn't happen or COVID didn't happen, at what point down the line would you then see me as disposable?
Yeah, I think it's at some point you would have not been easy.
Mm,
And what I'm talking about is able-bodied,
mm,
uh, cis-conforming,
mm.
um, doing whatever the normative things are. If you were not easy, then you would have been disposed of. And I hadn't hit that place really until COVID. And now I am not easy. I'm going to ask you about masking. I'm going to ask you if you texted. I'm going to ask you if you vaccinated. And nobody's really fucking with that. That's too hard. I
That's it.
just want to get back to normal.
That's it. And do you know what's funny? You say that because that has been the gripe since like the day I was born. Like I have been a chatty patty, like I will talk. I've always been someone who talks back. Like when I was what, 3? Question mark. I remember like going into like the little playgroup space and we had to like share and like we had to, go around and play with like toys with each other. I remember going like sitting there thinking, well, no, I want to play with all these toys. So I kind of rallied up the troops. I was like, "What's I'm head honcho here, and you're gonna give me the toys to play with, and I'll dish out the toys that you." I have always been that person, whether it's been good or bad is regardless. Um, but I've always been someone who questions things and talks back, and has always tried to challenge authority because that's how I grew up. But I think in this moment, it really shocked me how many people are willing to just lay down and take it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I have been forced out of jobs because I question COVID. I've been forced out of spaces because of being questioning COVID. I've had people drop me, ghost me, whatever, publicly lay me out on social media because I've just started asking questions. And I think I kind of, when COVID hit, I sort of knew that I was going to be lonely, maybe if that's the right phrase. Like I knew I was going to be um one of the few people sort of fighting back. I didn't think I was going to be so alone.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I would be so and I say alone tentatively as I'm talking to you. So like I know I'm not the only person, but I mean in the sense that, oh wow, there's not enough of us that are like fighting the good fight. And it feels very like I feel very alone in my fight of virtual performance or say COVID safe performance or what have you. Like having to kind of almost keep explaining myself and blah blah blah. That's the bit that shocked me, is the fact that I've not, it was saying it's not about me, it's about other people, but it's the fact that there's not many people that have grown a backbone. I don't know if that's a rude thing to say, but
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's the fact that do you know what? Let me rephrase that. It's the fact that people will do anything for capitalism,
That part.
and I think that is probably the shock for me, is that their leftist abolitionist identity is all a performance in itself. Um,
Going back to aesthetics,
there you go.
going
Because
back to how things look. Yeah, I want to look revolutionary while conforming with everything that capitalism and white supremacy sell me. Yeah.
that's it. And I think it really depresses me because if that is the case, then everybody's like, there's a bunch of people that could be on the chopping block, because how many abolitionists do you know who don't mask or don't take COVID seriously, or
Yeah.
only take COVID
How
seriously?
many disabled people do you know that don't take COVID seriously, that don't mask, but will look you in your face and tell you, oh, I mask everywhere I go. But then you look at their Instagram and it be group pictures of them unmasked indoors,
Woo, let's talk about it.
unmasked
Talk about
indoors,
it.
eating at the restaurant.
Yeah, at the concert because you can't miss the Renaissance tour. Like,
Right.
sorry?
Talking about it's so hard to be a COVID conscious person in this world. Straight up, unmasked, faces pressed together. I haven't seen you in so long.
Right?
Oh,
It's
I
like
just have allergies.
just allergies. Oh, it's a cold. Like as if I want your cold. Like as if I want your sickness. Overrule, no thank you. No thank you, ma'am. I'm good.
Yeah.
No, it's I think aesthetics, like it covers so much, but it is so like poignant because aesthetics really it's almost like desire is its own form of capital, and a lot of people will chase, like they may not chase social capital, they may not chase economic capital, but people will always chase some form of desire.
Yeah.
And I think
Or
desire,
desirability, you mean? Like I
yeah,
want. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like I think people, because I the way that I see desirability is like, because people, okay, this is a tangent, but follow me here, is that like, you have desirability as a thing, and I think a lot of people get hyped up on beauty, but I think there's capital in undesirability if you play your cards right. Like you
Hmm.
think of like, how do I say this nicely? Do you know, like, say someone like say Lizzo is like would be classed as undesirable, but she plays that undesirable well in order to get more capital, so to speak.
Oh, like the performance of marginalized identities.
There you go. Like it's the sort of people, even if you're if you are still marginalized, there is a way to perform in a way to gain capital.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think so. I always see like desirability is like neutral, but then you put it in context and it changes. And I
yeah,
think going back to like say with the aesthetics of abolitionists and leftists and what have you, and disabled influencers, so to speak, um a lot of that is them playing into they're grifters, actually. Let's just call it what it is. A lot of them are grifters because they see the world changing, they see what's happening, and they're thinking, okay, I don't want to be called a dickhead on social media, because they realize that social media is its own form of like capitalism machine.
yeah,
They'll say the right thing, they'll follow the right people, they'll like, because I see people who go to like concerts, like in my posts, I'm like, no sir, like no one invited you here. And but these same people are being unsafe, they are causing harm, they're maiming people, and
yeah,
it's just because they know the grift, they know what people value, so they're saying, well, I'm going to do it this way.
yeah.
And I think that's what I find the scariest thing, is the fact that people are grifting in a time of, there's always a time to be an influencer in a time of death. And I that scares me, because it wasn't, the body bags and the trucks that stopped this, it wasn't you know the the lockdowns, it wasn't, mass devastation, mass disablement that will stop you. What's the tipping point? What is the tipping point? Like, who has to get hurt in order for you to stop what you're doing? Like,
Not even, I used to think it was themselves. Like, oh, if you experienced COVID, then you would now. No,
hmm, no,
no. Everyone, I feel like I see a lot of people that experience COVID or have had at least one COVID infection, is what I mean by that.
yeah.
And then they just continue doing the same shit.
I mean, without dogging this person out, I thought it was family members. I mean, I
Say again, what'd you say?
family members, like,
Oh,
because I love my family to like I would say healthily but borderline. I adore my family. And I think that was the catalyst for me, was like, I want to see, my family thrive. And I have someone close to me who lost a parent to COVID. They had cancer, and they're still being unsafe. And I thought, you're you're really doing this still? Like, you don't see what the issue is? Because like they caught COVID in the hospital room. It wasn't like they got COVID and they got sick from it or whatever. Like, it was the catalyst to them passing away. God rest their soul. But it's the fact that they just see everyone around them as just disposable. There is everyone else is disposable, no matter who it is. Yes, they might be grieving. Yes, they might be sad, but it doesn't matter as long as I'm having fun.
yeah.
And that's really sad. Like, is that you want to build a different world with community, but you don't even see your community worth saving,
Yeah.
and that just really depresses me. And I think it's like, going back to like say performance, I think that's why, me as a performer, like for now, you will not see me in a venue, because I don't want to be responsible, or even just be involved with you anyone's disablement. Like, no. I love my community too much for that. I love my people way too much for that.
On the other half, my COVID response is more selfish, more
Yeah.
self-centered. I was coming from a place of watching Black people disappear in the US and very much feeling as if I was watching genocide unfold. Um, and it's something that it hit me really, really acutely in 2017.
Mm,
And I just kept seeing evidence of genocide everywhere I turned. So
mm,
that when COVID happened, I thought so strongly, they will not kill me. They will not kill me. They will not kill me. The government will not protect me. My neighbors will not protect me. My community will not protect me. It's on me to take care of myself.
mm,
And so when I am thinking about, do I want to be in a venue next to someone? First of all, I don't know how you sit next to someone who isn't willing to wear a mask, because that sends to me the message you don't give a fuck whether I live or die,
mm.
much less your own self,
Yep.
much less the people that you care for in your community and your family and all that good stuff. But I'm just thinking about my own self, selfish centered.
Period. And
I don't know
selfish.
how you sit
You
next to
should.
somebody.
You
I
should.
don't know how to sit next to somebody that does not care if you live or die. So that's like the main part. And then, yeah, as this continues to unfold, I'm looking around at people, and yeah, I hear you. You're looking at people going, damn, you don't care about your community and family. But I'm looking at people going, damn, you don't care about yourself.
Yeah. And that's, oh, like a lot of people say like here for a good time and not a long time. But I thought they were joking. I
They
thought
was
they were joking.
serious. They were serious.
Lord, I'm like, oh, so you want to drop dead at 25? Okay, like no, like a lot of I think especially Gen Z, we have a thing of mortality. I think because I think with the way that death was reported, actually, you know what? To be quite frank, it was 9/11. I think that was the start of the 24-hour news cycle. Like Euphoria was right about one thing. 9/11 did fuck up a bunch of people. Um, and like, I don't remember 9/11, but I remember being 3 and looking at the TV and just screaming because you saw someone, the falling man, if you remember that picture. And then since then, there's always been the threat of something like catastrophic, something big. Whether it's like a big celebrity dying, like when Michael Jackson died, that was 24-hour news cycle. Everything sort of stopped. I think the thing that hit me more was Whitney Houston. Um, and because I remember watching the TV and it being that shock of like, oh my god, So I think a lot of people who are Gen Z, I can't speak for everybody, we have this thing of like our own mortality and realizing how we can sort of die young, or there is the possibility. I think another example which is probably better is Corey Menteith from Glee. Not to say that Glee was any good. I'm not giving Ryan Murphy anything, but like it's that moment was just like he was so young. And yeah, so going back to it, there's always been this thing of mortality and death and the fear of perishing. So again, I kind of thought that in this moment that Gen Z would be the leaders maybe, or the sort of the change makers. And maybe that was that like secret liberal I love Jay-Z mind in the back of my head, like sort of talking. But I didn't realize that so many of my peers didn't really care, actually. It was just, it's the aesthetics, the shock of death people don't want. They don't actually mind it
Yeah.
because again, I need to get, it's more about the experience and capital and um trying to kind of grab life rather than actually there's beauty in growing older. There's beauty in experiencing life safely. You know, you don't have to. I mean, I've had so many wild experiences in my very short time on this earth, but I don't need to go and recreate more just to say that I did it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's yeah, I think that that was the shock for me, was the fact that a lot of people who I thought we've seen, like, we grew up around the 24-hour news cycle. We've seen so many of our favorite people pass, um, whether it be celebrity or even just like, you know, school shootings and catastrophes and emergencies that's happened. Because yeah, I think kind of like you around. I think for me it was maybe when Trayvon Martin was murdered was sort of the start, because and well, it was Trayvon Martin was murdered, but it was more Mike Brown, because Mike Brown happened the same time something happened in my family, which was eerily similar.
Yeah.
Um, so I remember being 15 and being like, right, you lot suck. So I need to get on it. Um, but I always fought for life. I always fought for the right to live and
Can I ask you a clarifying question?
go for it.
Let me understand if I'm hearing what you're trying to say. So, Gen Z, the experience of being inundated with death,
Yeah.
you imagined that under COVID, Gen Z having that kind of dark sense of humor and
Yeah.
familiarity with death, you thought that the response was going to be what?
I think I guess sort of disobedience, because
Oh, because they have that
yeah, that
mission is
sort
not giving a fuck. Yeah.
yeah, like, because I think we've always gone, yeah, stuff this. I mean, like, when did we ever take anything? We don't take anything seriously. I don't think we ever have. Like, we grew up sarcastic, you know, we grew up, you know, talking back. We grew up like not adhering to, I guess I don't want to say social norms, 'cause I think it's another form of a social norm, but the kind of hegemony, you know, we just kind of grew up like, nah, stuff this, I'm doing this. Like, nah, we ain't, you know, we ain't following what the adults tell us, because I don't care.
I feel you.
I don't care
That
about
rebellious
job.
spirit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care about doing this and that. you know, living life. Again, fighting for our life. And again, it goes back to, like, I think a lot of Gen Z, like, we got hit hard by a lot of our faves dying young. And I think that really affected us in, like, the way that we approach certain things. Like, we don't, like, we're not beholden to people like R. Kelly. Like, some
You
people,
know,
like, but and I'll leave those people over there. But there's a lot of people we're not beholden to, because we don't have to be. There's the stakes aren't as high for us.
yeah, when you were describing it, it actually made more sense to me and it actually like lit up a light bulb. Gen Z has been inundated with death
Mm.
and has a dark ass sense of humor about death. It makes a lot of sense to me that they don't give a fuck. It's
Yeah,
another thing. I'm gonna die. I'm
that's
here for a good time, not a long time. So that response actually makes a lot of sense to me.
yeah.
I'm less surprised. Now, from the other side of things, the Gen X experience,
Mm.
we are people that grew up with HIV/AIDS. Like the first, like, I don't know if what sex ed looks like now, but like the first thing that we talked about in sex ed was, you know, how to not die from HIV/AIDS,
Mm.
being queer. I was brought up on stories about how the ways how non-binary people, lesbians, showed up for cis gay men.
Mm.
Um, HIV/AIDS crisis. I was brought up with the idea of like PPE. How do
Yeah,
we keep ourselves safe? What are the things, the tools that we can use to keep ourselves safe? And
yeah.
so I am surprised that Gen X brought up on all of this legend about how we come together in times of health crisis, especially queer people. I
Mm.
am surprised that that did not happen. That were not hit by COVID and we thought, let's band together, particularly as marginalized people who are often affected by things more acutely. Let's get it together. That did not happen.
No, it didn't. And do you know what? I think it's something that I have a Gen X mother, and she's like, if you want a stereotype of Gen X, that's her. And I think, I guess, this what I've witnessed and what she's told me is, I think in that moment, it was like an emergency, right? We're seeing a bunch of people die, and big people's, like, people that everyone knows, people that, you know, people may never know. who passed. But I think after the emergency, like it never ended. Let's make that very clarifying and clear. But basically, when white people stopped caring, and when the capitalist caste and the middle class people stopped caring, I think they realized that they could sort of commodify a moment, and it was very much like, because I agree with you. I don't understand how you go through all that trauma and then go, okay, time to go to a restaurant. But I think there was this rush to see gay as normal. I'm
Yeah.
rewatching a soap of mine, a very British soap. It's very bad, but there's a storyline that I love of one of the characters is come out as gay, and it's 2010, 2012, give or take. And the whole premise of it is literally just you got to see gay as normal. You got to see gay
And
as
that
okay.
normalcy is a curse.
That's it.
Normalcy is a curse. And so, yeah, I very much feel what you're talking about in terms of like my generation, Gen X, we were brought up in like this idea that there would be a health crisis, we would band together, blah, blah, blah. But when it actually happened, you had a choice.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue queering and imagining a different world in which we care for each other and band together? Or do you want to be normal? And the last 10, 15 years of media has said gay is normal.
That's it.
And so that's what I want to adhere to. And
That,
I get an opportunity to do that. And fuck you.
that's
Fuck you
it.
if you're not normal.
Exactly. If you go, and you know what, it's interesting because this same soap like could be a whole essay in itself, is the fact that they always have like you what you know it's not just the soap, it's media. You have the good gays and the bad gays. If you choose, I say choose in quotations, to be deviant, i.e. like a whore or in one way, or promiscuous, or
Kinky or
sexual,
poor or
or
disabled.
poor, or
Yeah.
just any sort of marginalized, that you're the bad gay and you deserve what's coming to you. But if you're the good gay and you aspire and you um want to be a capitalist and blah blah blah, or you want to even just look rich, it's
Yeah.
not even about being rich, it's like looking rich. I think about RuPaul's Drag Race and how every season there's a drag queen who isn't as rich as another drag queen because they, for reasons, and it's like it's almost seen as a mark on them.
Yeah.
It's a mark on, well, you don't want to look rich, so you can't get further into this competition.
You're too deviant. And we are centered on aesthetics. Going
Yes,
back to the
yeah,
aesthetic
that's
conversation, you know.
it.
And
Exactly.
yeah, deviance is a part of queerness. And
Yeah,
again, we've got this divide between queerness and queer people that are interested in queering the world, and then people who are interested in maintaining and getting back to normal.
in normality. It's
And aesthetics, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what, like, yeah, I think with what I will say, what has sort of been I don't want to say a silver lining because people died, but like something that I've learned in this moment is it's pushed the boundaries of my musicianship hugely. Like, I can honestly say that my music, like, stuff it getting better, but I have explored so much because, like, I'll listen to one artist now, and yes, you're talking about the revolution, you're talking about being different and loving yourself and whatever, but I don't believe you because I see you, because I can see what you're doing. So it
Yeah.
means that, like, when it comes to what I write, it's not me trying to be like virtual signal and say, hey, I'm good, I'm actually doing it right, not you. It's more about actually, not only do I practice what I preach, but I see the importance of art. Like, I saw something the other day that said art's not enough, it's about direct action. But I'm like, if you use your art right, your art is direct action. And I see, if I do place my art right, and because it's not just about the process of making art, it's actually about how you use it and how you use it to sort of share a message. I realize the importance of all of that, and it has made me realize, okay, it's not just about me when I write music anymore. Like, yes, it's about my experience, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, insert artist here, going to exploit a movement. but I'm also going to make art that is in that, to quote Nina Simone, is reflective of the times.
Mm.
That's reflective of the times, reflective of what we're going through and how we're just even how we're feeling. You know, like there's I think we've talked a lot about like what has happened, but like how do we feel about all of this? It sucks. Like
That's another thing I don't think we've processed.
no,
Urge, and I'm saying our, but I'm not a part of that shit. But
no,
yeah, in folks' urge to get back to normalcy, I don't know that they've processed
no,
any of actually what's happened and what is continuing to happen.
no,
Um,
no.
Pause. I do want us to transition, and you did a really good job of transitioning into what we're doing with art right now. But I do have to pee.
Go pee. I charged my laptop, so yeah, you're fine. I was like, I need to. I don't know where we're gonna stop, but
Keep
yeah,
it recording though, if possible.
yeah, fine, absolutely fine. An
Okay.
infinite space, so you go.
All right, I'll be right back.
Oh, plug. Oh, I just
Um,
saw something funny, but I'll tell you later.
make a note in the chat about what it's about, though.
No, it's for something pay. Don't worry. Like, I'll tell you like after we finish recording because we'll be here all
Okay.
day. But yeah, go for it. Go for it. What did I just say? Something about um uh
Using art for activism and that it's reflective of the times.
yes, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, reflect
Um,
times and also
so,
how it's
so let me ask, can I ask you a question and then
go for it. Go for it.
so yeah, you were talking about no, I feel you, RE art that is reflective of the times. What is that looking like specifically for you?
I think for me, like my art, like before I kind of came to the realization, was very poetic because everything started out as a poem and then it would kind of go, oh, it's very flowy, it's very free, it's very vague. It was more about the soundscape rather than the lyrical quality. Now lyrics mean everything to me, and that's it's really minor, but for me the way that my art's been made is that, like, I'm thinking of a song I'm writing called Scapegoats, and it's just very okay. I want you to, it's very all encompassing. I'm more about creating a scenario, a scene, a world that I want to bring you in and I want to sort of encompass you now. Rather than just you be a viewer of my art, I now want to bring you in and have you understand why, like, there's this feeling or what I'm trying to convey. And I think like the song Scapegoats, it's very monotone, it's very angry, but also there are so many moving parts now because it's gone to the point of rather than, oh, I'm making a song and it's going to sound like this and it's going to sound like inspiration of this artist or what have you. I'm going for with a feeling. That's just it's just a feeling now. Because yeah, I think right now I'm right now I'm less worried about trying to appease Spotify, or I'm less worried about trying to release at a certain point or whatever. It's more about actually I want to um do my community proud.
Mm.
I want to do my community proud because there is a I've been lucky in the fact that I've made had a community of people and we've discovered like we've been making art in our own little bubble, and we've been sharing our feelings, we've been sharing our thoughts, we've been talking about like the stuff that is not pretty or that isn't desirable. It's the stuff icky thing. It's the anger, the shaming, the brutality, the suicidality of it all. And I think even though it can get quite dark and quite sad, at the same time, I think it's so necessary and so freeing. And that's when I say like reflecting of the times, even if like say 10 years from now, um, no one wants to like remember this moment with even with either with, whether it's within community or in the mainstream. I think it's important to like I want people to know that I was sad in 2024. Like cool that I was angry in 2023. Like I want people to understand what I was going through, or even if it's just for me, to say like, oh, this is a way of me documenting a moment. This is my way of documenting a feeling. So I can say to whoever I talk to in a couple of years' time, I felt like this at this point in time. I think that's so like I never used to be the legacy person. You know, like black people always have the I'm all about legacy.
Yeah, because legacy is often so tied to respectability, but yeah.
Yes. If I was look, I will do a whole other podcast about how I am like a Jay-Z, like I've come out of my Jay-Z phase. And I was so into legacy and like you said, respectability and oh, we have to do things so that our future grandchildren will be proud and looked after. But I do think there's a sort of fear and anxiety there. But now it's more about I don't really care about what people say about me in a couple of years' time because it's going to be different for every different person. But I just want to remember it like while I'm still here, I want to remember. I want to remember these moments. I want to have
Document.
yeah, I want to document these moments because I think it's important. I think and I never used to be someone that was into Instagram. I never really used to document stuff, but I got to a certain point where I said, actually, I think I need to. But what about you? Like, how have you been making art, and has it changed? Like within maybe, like I said, I say I'm using COVID as like a pinpoint, but even before that, like what when you realize actually this isn't working for you or this isn't right, what's changed in your art process? Like, how do you make art now?
Um, for sure. I want to talk about that. I want to gather your thoughts though while you're still thinking about it, because
Yeah,
I'm curious about um what sharing looks like specifically now. Because do you have an emphasis on performance,
mhm.
or how are you sharing your work with other people? Is it performance or what is it?
I think it's, I think it's performance, but it's in a different. One is a different medium. It's virtual now, and I think virtual performances are it's a little bit more disjointed. I don't remember the word is, but there's a word where it's like something something time where it's like asynchronized time where it's like
Yeah, yeah.
you're not receiving it as I'm sharing it with you all the time. So there's this sort of slickness that comes with the performance now because I know that someone's not literally watching me as I'm recording. I'm even with this, but also I am so much less a perfectionist now. Like I am willing to let things sit in the ether and then come back to it and maybe change it and perfect it later. Like this is really minor, but it'll make sense. I had a song called Burden, and in the bridge of it, I am singing achromatically. And every musician that I got on that song was like, you do realize this is out of tune, right? I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do, friend. Thank you. But I'm less worried about being perfect. I'm less worried about sort of fitting into lines. I like being rough. I like making people uncomfortable. I like um not conforming. And it's made the whole process a lot more fun. It's made it a lot more fun. It's made it a lot um it's made it like I don't want to say worth it. I don't think that's the right word, but it's made it's I feel more rewarded like it doesn't feel like a job anymore. It feels like just creating. Um, and I think that's something that I've definitely struggled with until COVID, and that's probably a positive that's happened, where it's like, okay, yes, there is work to it, there is labor to it, but it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like like a 9 to 5. It feels like a art practice. It feels like something that is just part of my everyday.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that's what this moment has done, because the mass I know, no matter what I do, the masses aren't listening, because I'm not being desirable in that way. I'm not going out, I'm
Yeah.
not going to their networking events and being like, hey friend, how are you? Actively calling people out. So it means that I have freedom to make a mess and just have fun with it, really, not have to worry about again, the aesthetics. Again, we keep coming back to that word, the aesthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Anything that you can say to the soundbite of the theme of reclamation that what's his face was talking about?
Oh,
Uh, how have you how have you are there pieces from your previous pre-COVID arts practice that you were able to reclaim and bring into this new arts practice?
definitely. But I think it in that reclamation, I've had to think about it more, and actually what was the purpose of it. So like with um I guess when I started out, like even before the classical training or whatever, I was always a peculiar kid, and I was a ridiculous person. Like I would try so hard. Like I was an overachieving child. Um and I would make art from that. I remember when I was 6, and I would just cut, like you had the tape recorders and you could like record over it. I would just go on for hours. If you couldn't tell, I'm a talkative person. I would talk for hours about just making up stories and creating worlds and what have you. And then the classical music came, and I'm so grateful for it. But there was a sort of, you need to do this in order to achieve this, which is the crux of classical music. And then I joined a, you would call like an R&B choir group, and again it was, which as black people we need to have a conversation about, you need to sing like this in order for people to see you like this. Like you need to sing like Whitney Houston. Like there was a huge focus, because I could, mine and Whitney Houston's top notes are the same, which I think is like a high B. And it was like, okay, so you need to constantly show people, run, control, whatever. And okay, fair enough, but that wasn't indicative of who I was. And so coming into this moment, because yes, I still have those practices of, you sing a certain way, you warm up, you do X, Y, and Z before you do this. I now am allowed to be a ridiculous person, and no one can stop me. Like I can be melodramatic, or I can talk about uncomfortable things, or I can just make up a whole scenario and you just have to listen, because you can't, it was virtual, so you didn't stop me when I was there. um I think that it breaking boundaries and sort of breaking barriers of creativity, of creative norms, has
Mhm.
definitely been my reclamation. I've had to been able to reclaim um who I am as a person through my art, and it's definitely seeped into my personality and like how I go about my day to day. But ultimately, yeah, I've been able to just experiment in ways that I don't think I could if I was trying to be normal. Yeah. What about you? What, like, have you reclaimed anything from
Oh
your
yeah.
arts
I
to now?
mean, yeah, I feel similar. I my arts, so I definitely am not performing burlesque at all.
No.
Um, that makes me sad. My
Mm,
last burlesque performance was in January of 2020, and I didn't know then that it was my last burlesque performance,
mm,
and that I can't stop fixating on it.
no.
I wish. that I had known then that it was, and I feel like I would have treated it differently in terms of performing it, but also documenting it, also living in the moment and savoring it, you know. Um, and I want to put together a film
Mm.
that is my official last burlesque performance, because I want that experience. I want that experience of knowing that this is it, you know? But
Yeah.
like I said, there's no way that I would do a burlesque show. I'm not fucking putting my life at risk for $50.
No.
I just am not. I just refuse to. And again, I don't know how to sit next to people that don't give a shit whether I live or die, as
Mm.
long as I look pretty when I'm doing it. I don't know how you do that.
No.
Anyway, so yeah, not doing burlesque anymore. And similar, as a child, I was a creative who just was always making something, always doing something, always artistically inclined in some kind of way. And when I got to burlesque, I thought, this is my area of specialization. Capitalism says that you must niche down, you must become a specialist. And so that's what I figured I would do. And then now in a post COVID, not post, but
Yeah.
in a COVID world, um, arts practice now looks like following my desire, following my whims, following prioritizing myself in my arts practice instead of prioritizing other folks, which I feel like a lot of my burlesque performance career was about. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I'm painting now. I'm getting deeper into my taxidermy practice. I'm crafting more extensively and understanding that craft is not different from art. It is all rooted in some type of creativity.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's the same idea. I feel like I'm reclaiming a queer arts practice,
Mm.
and I am reclaiming an arts practice that is centered on my joy.
Mm.
And that feels really valuable and important to me right now.
Yeah. I think that's what I love about your art, actually. Like when I watch your YouTube and I watch, even just listening to you talk about it, is that you can tell that it's always you. There's always Regina Jenkins, let's be honest. Like it just has a very you feel through it. But on top of that, it's like I can tell that this is important to you and that it's like if you stop doing it, I'd be worried. I'd be like, okay, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
it feels part of you. It doesn't feel like you're just doing it for to meet an end or whatever. And I think that's what I enjoy because there's so many different parts. You paint, you have YouTube, you do X, Y, and Z, but ultimately it's all you. Um, and I think that's what I love. I love seeing you create. I love seeing you make art and yeah, you have a lot of passion. I think that's the word I'm looking for. You have a lot of passion for your art.
I do. And you know what? Okay, this is not necessarily related, but I can't figure out the difference between myself and other artists. I'm often in artist community with folks, and I don't see them prioritizing their art. And I'm always so confused about that.
Yeah. I it's something I mean, I this is not promo, but like I created like something called the Passion Project for that exact reason because it felt like people weren't prioritizing art, it was just they were prioritizing other aspects of it. Like and I think a small part of me, like it's minor, but again, the new back to the Nisha being petty, it's like why do you care about what people think about you when it's about the art at the end of the day? Like,
Yeah.
why do you care about hitting that high B or doing a run or whatever, fitting a certain idea of you when it's about the art? Why doesn't your song sound good? Why does it feel like you wrote this in 5 minutes? And it's, it's
Yes.
no shade to people if that's actually them, that's the best they got. But there's a lot of art that, especially in my space, and they're not necessarily my peers, but like peers of peers, where it feels like they're just trying to impress someone. They're just trying to fit the idea of them. When actually, why can't I just get you? Like, why can't I just understand you? I mean, there's one artist, which again, I'll show you another time, it's very funny. Like, there's this song that is basically a rip off of Oh, Cinnamon by Nina Simone. Uh, and I just sit there and I think it's not necessarily the rip-off that I'm pissed off about, even though it's terrible, but it's also why
Where
did you need to do that? Where are you in this? Like what okay, you ripped off Nina Simone, good for you. Where are you in this? And I think that's something that I just think a lot of people don't, and I think there's a lot of reasons to that. Like I think the Spotify streaming servicification of it all. I'm coming from a music point of view, but I think in art as overall, because it's been put on platforms that are built to constantly feed us or to constantly algorithmic, I guess. Which I
Mhm.
don't think algorithm again. I don't think algorithmic is itself a bad thing, but when you add money to it, when you add
Yeah,
capital to it, that's when it becomes a problem because then people will follow the algorithm. They'll follow that, and then the art itself then takes a hit because you're trying to mold the art to fit an algorithm or you're trying to mold the art to fit a platform. And it really bums me out because there are some artists and some songs or some pieces of art, some films that I just think, wow, why did we not sit with this more?
yeah.
Why did we not think about it more? Like, I mean, this is again another tangent. Do you remember Uncut Gems?
I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is.
It's just a film that is built to make you anxious. That's all that you need to know. It's not the best film in the world. It's not. I'm not giving Adam Sandler much, but it was Adam Sandler's best film, and in my opinion. And I think because it was released on a streaming platform, and it was released on whatever, it's just we just went past it, and it just really bothers me how fast we go past, how fast we
Consume.
consume films
Yeah.
because I remember the moment I watched that film and I finished it and I was so anxious. I was like, and it was Christmas morning, and I was just walking around like, oh my god, da da da, whatever. And I still talk about that moment because it was really funny. So I woke the whole house up because I was just pacing around. But it just felt like, oh, that film happened, onward and upward. People
Yeah.
still talk about it, but it's like it, they're it, people don't want to. They want to create moments, not actually pieces of art.
Yeah.
And I think that trips up so many people. But how long have we been talking for?
About an hour now. Um,
Okay. Do you
so I
want
just wanted us to look at the notes and see if there's anything that you have that you wanted to cover that we didn't cover.
I do you know what interesting? The last note that I was more fussed on, I actually did at the start about queer theories. I think was the one capacity and functionality. Yeah, I think we've covered it all. Yeah, I think we've covered it all. I can't see.
Did we say enough that feels like on theme reclamation?
Yes and no, but realistically it's 10-15 minutes. So
Yeah.
realistically we had that reclamation bit.
Yeah, we have a little.
The other bit, put that at the start or at the end, and then just chop bits in between. Because
Okay.
I want to build context in that, and then yeah,
Can you, is this okay? Is this something that you would want to do? Can we end this session? Can you check to make sure 100% that it recorded? And
yeah,
then can we come back to close out?
yeah, totally, yeah. Let me. Actually, know what I can do is I don't need to stop. I can just pause it.